The fuck? She's scared to open my door.
The strangest part is that her dogs that bark at pretty much everything were completely silent, standing still, not moving, just staring at the door. No barking, no growling, only fear. And then a shadow was visible through the glass of the door. It didn't look human. It didn't look like an animal. It was something else. A lot of people say it was probably a skinwalker, a creature that copies voices, knocks like a person, and waits for you to open the door. She didn't open it, and her dogs just kept on staring and never barked. So if you hear knocking late at night and your dogs don't react to it, it's a sign that it's something evil, and whatever you do, do not open the door.
The only time that I have been truly terrified in the Appalachian Mountains as an Appalachian native is this one time my husband and I went camping with our couple friend, and we went primitive hiking and primitive camping, and they was late getting ready, and they brought a ton of stuff because they'd just never done it before, and we got there late because they were running late, and I stayed behind by myself to clear up an area that someone else had previously used for camping, and they went back to the car to bring back all the stuff they had brought. So we ran out of daylight. I'm using a lantern, and all of a sudden, as I'm chopping down these weeds so that we can put our tents down and I can build a fire pit, everything stops. The breeze stops. All sounds stop. The bugs, the animals, everything. I feel the hair on my neck and my arms just stand up straight in this feeling of dread, and like, I was done. Don't do that, y'all. Don't go out in the mountains by yourself, because you could just fall down and break your ankle and no one can hear you. It doesn't have to be any other reason. Then all of a sudden, and I've never heard voices in my life before that or after that. I don't have anything wrong that would cause that to happen to me. I was completely sober. I'm always completely sober. I hear voices, and it's like hundreds of voices just spinning around me in a circle, as if I am just standing in the middle of a tornado of voices. Old men, old women, young women, young boys, young girls, creepy, and I hear my name in them. And I'm like rubbing my ears, like, oh my gosh, what is going on? I just hunger against a tree, hunger down against a tree, and I start praying the Lord's Prayer, you know, all the prayers. And it took about 20 minutes before it stopped. And when it stopped, I said more prayers, and then I got up and I finished making the camp, and they came back. And you don't talk about it. You're supposed to leave the area. So I couldn't talk about it. There's no way we would have left the area that night. They just wouldn't have done it. So we stayed, and I didn't tell anybody what happened until we got back home. We stayed 2 nights.
Deep in the Appalachian forests, there's trees that are older than countries. These mountains are the first to ever rise on Earth. Over 480 million years old, they were once taller than the Himalayas, now softened, ancient, and crawling with mystery. But here's what gives people chills. Hikers go missing here all the time. Not 1 or 2, hundreds. No bodies, no gear, no tracks, just gone. Locals say the woods don't take kindly to strangers who don't respect them. Thick fog rolls in without warning. You can't see your own hand, let alone what's watching you from the tree line. Abandoned cabins rot in silence. Old graveyards are swallowed by moss. Entire ghost towns still sit untouched, frozen in time. Then there's the stories of skinwalkers, wailing women, and eyes in the trees that blink sideways. Some say there's something in these woods older than the mountains themselves, something that doesn't want to be found. So next time you're hiking deep in the Appalachians and you feel like something's behind you, don't turn around. It's probably just the wind. Probably. Follow for more if you liked the video.
For those of y'all who are familiar with the Appalachian Mountains of Western North Carolina, have y'all heard of the Happy Place or the Black Kingdom? Now, there's a very incorrect stereotype that in the Appalachian Mountains, there's not many people of color. And I understand why that stereotype exists. Because oftentimes, the history of black and brown people in the Appalachian Mountains is ignored or erased altogether. Like, y'all gotta remember that for a long time, black people were not even allowed to learn to read and write. And BIPOC people had a harder time accessing adequate education. So if white people weren't telling their stories, the only way that they had to tell their own stories often was orally. And so unfortunately, there's probably a lot of really rich history of BIPOC people, especially in this region of the Appalachian Mountains, and we probably will never know the full details of a lot of it because of this. However, there are some things that we do have some details of, such as the Happy Place or the Black Kingdom. So the story starts as we're reaching the end of the Civil War and enslaved black people are finally getting freed. Where do they go? Well, this group of people, they decided they were going to make a paradise and they had to find the right place. So they started traveling, supposedly from Mississippi. They travel from Mississippi through Alabama, through Georgia, and by the time they get to South Carolina, they're hearing word from people that the low country white folk have been going up to the mountains of western North Carolina and western South Carolina and like chilling, okay? That is the place to be. You can get secluded up there. So now they got this vision in their mind that they're going to go up there and they're going to find a mountaintop and they're going to get that shit. One of the many barriers they had to encounter was finding a white person in the Confederate South who would sell them land. Luckily, they found that in the mountains from Miss Sarepta Davis to the left right here. Now, she was a newly widowed woman. She had a large plantation in Henderson County, high up in the mountains, but she was newly widowed and she could not handle all that shit on her own anymore. And so she told them she would sell them 180 acres for $1 per acre as long as they would help her work the farm. So they purchased 180 acres of this mountaintop land in exchange for labor, and they created the Happy Place. This is a map of it right here. They were right next to Lay Summit in what is now called Tuxedo, North Carolina. Now, I'm guessing one of the reasons it's called the Black Kingdom is because apparently there really was supposed to be a quote-unquote king and queen. Apparently, sometime in the 1870s, Robert Montgomery came out as the king, and his sister-in-law Luella came out as the queen. Now, we don't know a ton about, if they had any laws, if they had a certain way of life. We don't really know much about that, but we do know that it was rather successful for a while. Like, not only were they able to survive, they were able to thrive, and they were able to actually make a profit. They were able to not only cultivate the land and grow enough food to feed themselves, they were able to sell enough to make a profit. They were also able to make a decent profit off of women knitting and sewing and doing fiber works. However, sometime in the 1880s, the arrival of a new railroad completely disrupted their economy and their way of life, and so did it disrupt the Happy Place. The residents began dispersing between Hendersonville, Flat Rock, upstate South Carolina like Greenville and Spartanburg. By 1900, majority of the Happy Place had already dispersed, and then, of course, outside families began coming in and buying little pieces of the land up. Until finally, in 1918, the last remaining resident of the Happy Place, Jerry Casey, passed away in his home that was said to be Robert Montgomery's home, who was the king of the Black Kingdom or the Happy Place. Now, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's very hard to find the details about a lot of history like this. The little bit that we do know is mainly from the descendants of the residents being interviewed. However, a lot of this information was actually gathered and then written by white journalists. However, I would highly recommend, if you want to learn more about the history behind the Happy Place, please go to conservingcarolina.org, where you can actually look into lesser-known stories written by Ronnie Pepper, who is a Hendersonville native, which is in Henderson County, the same county this happened in. And he specifically focuses on sharing the stories of Black history in the region, including this one. I just find all of this so intriguing because even the history that involves majority white people is really hard to find details about with this region. For example, the city in the Appalachian region of South Carolina that the mill massacre happened in at the Chickawa Mill, in 1929, they are just now agreeing to acknowledge that it happened. After, of course, members of the public started to find out that it happened and demanded that they, have some kind of acknowledgement that it happened, since they kind of sweep it under the rug. So if it's this hard to find information about the history of white people in Appalachia, it's extremely hard. It's twice as hard to find that information about the BIPOC populations in Appalachia, which is absolutely tragic because they had such an integral part of building Appalachia, especially the Appalachians of the Carolinas.
It's the four-legged. If he stands up, I'm gonna shit myself.
What's the weirdest and most unusual experience you've had in the Appalachian Mountains? Buckle up, story time. Let me first shed some context on this area. You know how almost every region has a haunted location, like a haunted house? Everyone knows the history there, and everyone also knows that that history is a little dark. People funnel all sorts of energy into that location. The human brain is a very powerful thing, and when enough human brains come together in one idea and focalize in to a certain location, like a haunted house, for example, it can bring forth some things, manifesting entities with energies. Now, I live in the Appalachian foothills, the gateway to the Appalachian Mountains. I live smack dab in the middle of Wayne National Forest. A lot of native people used to live here, and they were relocated, offsetting an entire way of life, removing native people from their holy lands, native people dying in droves. Well, a lot of them focalized a lot of that energy to bring forth a certain entity that I don't even like saying out loud, but I've seen it, and it was fucking terrifying. All of our roads around here just go through endless forest. It can kind of get to your head when you're driving at night. Hardly any cell phone service in a very remote and sparsely populated area. One night I was heading home from fishing, just listening to the radio and carrying on, when a coyote stepped into the middle of the road. This thing ain't moving out of the road, so I just hit my brakes and I sit there with it in my headlights. When I first saw it, it'd be about as far as where that barn is, but it got about as close to where that fence is right there. It was acting real strange, real confident, nonchalant, like I didn't matter, like that big hunk of steel that I was driving, it didn't care about. It was walking right down the center of that lane. When it gets from about me to that fence, it just stops. I've never seen an animal be so still in my life. So I'm honking my horn at it. I'm making all sorts of noise and hooting. I don't want to hit this thing. I want to just get around it. But something's really striking me off with it. I honk at it several more times till finally I take my car out of park. And the moment I took my car out of park, I saw it stand up. Just like the freaking hair on my arm right now, I saw it stand up on its back legs, man, and it rattled me to my core. We don't even say the name of this thing out loud here. You'll just invoke it. The only thing I thought to do was just accelerate hard and get past it and try not to look at it as I got by. But I could not help but notice it remained perfectly still, except for its head twisting, looking at me as I went by it. I was terrified to look at my rear view. Terrified. I flew down them old coal mining roads and those old wagon trails, man. I was hauling ass to get home. I never once felt like it wanted to hurt me. Just wanted to make sure that I knew that it was real. As big, as brawny, and as strong as I am, there wasn't a single part of my head that thought that I could win whatever that was. It psychologically dominated me without barely moving. When it stood up, it looked like it had gained like an extra 2 feet, just perfectly still. I got more of them. Me and Cody had a few run-ins with the big guy too. Me and Cody even got impressions of his feet, but that's a story for another time. Welcome to Appalachia. Stay safe, stay wild.
Appalachian sayings that are just so cunt, but I don't rightly know why. Kjarn. If somebody's mamaw tells you you smell kjarn, you're liable to want to find the nearest bridge and jump off. Cause she's saying that your backside smells plumb rotted like Lazarus. Gommed up. This is the biggest diss a papaw can give you after you've done a job for him. You've gommed up the paint job means he ain't gonna write you that $5 check he promised. A booger or a haint. Now we could just say ghost, but that ain't quite evocative enough for us. No, we want to evoke so much fear that you can't even stand to get up in the middle of the night to piss. Chest or drawers, not a chest of drawers, no, chest or drawers. And I like this one because there ain't no rhyme or reason to it. Somebody said it, we just stuck with it. Growing up my whole life, I thought there was some kind of folklore about a guy named Chester that made the first set of drawers. Wallering. Now I like this one because it can be a diss or it can be something good. Honey, she's wallered around in that sadness to where she looks plumb forlorn. Or you just waller around in the covers all day, happier than a pig in shit. It just hits different when we say it.
Some say that Appalachian balds were cleared by ancient peoples. Others say it was grazing, and scientists, even they're not completely sure. Let's talk about one of Appalachia's most fascinating mysteries, in my opinion, as we continue on our spooky season series. As an avid hiker of the Southern Appalachians, some of my favorite views that I have ever seen have come from Appalachian balds. They're these cleared, wide open grassy fields that you see after hiking through the trees. You can find them in North Carolina, Tennessee, North Georgia, and some parts of Southwest Virginia. But instead of a thick forest like you might expect, some of these summits are covered in shrubs or even these expansive grassy meadows. There are two types of Appalachian balds. There are grassy balds, which are typically full of native grasses, and heath balds, which are filled with shrubs like mountain laurel or rhododendron. But here's where it gets really interesting, because no one is exactly sure how all of these grassy balds were were formed. There's one theory that comes from Mary Lindsay in her book, History of Grassy Balds in the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. She interviewed some locals who said that some balds were cleared for settlers so that they could graze their cattle way back in the 1800s, and a lot of these balds are named for the family or person who cleared it, such as Spencefield and Andrews Bald. But then there are even some theories that predate the settlers, because Gregory Bald, for example, appears much older than some of these other ones. In 1931, Stanley A. Kane studied the soil up at the top of Gregory Bald and found something that was pretty interesting. There were deep, mature grassland layers that couldn't have just been developed over the course of a couple of centuries. That suggests that Gregory Bald was grassy long before the Europeans arrived. And that's what brings us to my personal favorite theory. Researchers Peter Weigel and Travis Knowles proposed that during the last ice age, extreme conditions are what caused these grassy balds to appear, and that these severe climatic conditions probably deforested the peaks of the southern Appalachians. The balds were then kept open by prehistoric megafauna, meaning big honkin' creatures from the Ice Age. Isn't that so cool? This is Pleistocene era animals like mammoths, giant bison, and mastodons. Great band, by the way, and rest in peace, Brent Hines. Later on, bison and elk would have helped maintain these grassy fields by grazing it before the European settlers arrived. And then when the European settlers got here, they would have continued to use the areas to graze their cattle. So if you have ever stood out on a great open expanse in the southern Appalachians at a place like Max Patch or Roan Mountain or one of the many grassy balds in the Great Smoky Mountains, you might have just been walking on the footsteps of Ice Age giants. Isn't that just mind-blowing? I love southern Appalachia. I love it so much. So whatever the origin, Appalachian balds, in my opinion, are one of the most beautiful and mysterious places in all of mountains, even if it might not have a cryptid or a ghost or a skinwalker or a not deer involved. Have you ever hiked one before? Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next one. Okay, bye.
We are in the middle of nowhere. My door is locked. Oh my god. I can't even get out. I unlock it. There we go. Okay, hold on.
You figure it out.
I want to know why
Press the button back right there. Right there. On the door handle, like above the door handle. Above the door handle. You see it? Yeah.
What are we gonna do?
What now?
I guess we'll have to walk to the store.
Hey.
What do we do? What's that?
I don't know.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, we better get back in the car.
Yeah, we better.
Oh no, it's locked. Why is the car locked? This is scary. Oh my god. Okay. Did it lock?
No.
What's the deal with this car? I don't understand.
You'll have to unlock it for me.
Something weird has happened with this car.
What's going on?
Let's see if it starts.
Waiting for connection. Bluetooth connection success.
What was that? Oh my god.
Let's get out of here. Go. Does it run? Is it working?
Yes, it is. It's working. Thank God.
I might let you go first. No, that's why I was like, look, it was this way.
Either way, it's about the same. It's still just roots.
Look at this. Look.
What? No fucking.
It has bugs on him.
Oh, he's so cute.
Look at all the bugs.
You good little buggies. You found a good home. They're resting. I wish I could rest on a mushroom. I'm jealous.
Me too. Little fairies. Is that the road already?
Yep.
Yeah.
My dog will not let me in the room.
Being Black Appalachian is wild because obviously I'm in a parking lot bright ass lights and shit, right? Directly behind me, you see those big ass deer? There's a whole family of deer. There we go. I had to figure out how to do the zoom. Aren't they beautiful? Pretty as hell, right? In the hood, bruh. Deer just be rolling. Oh, they're getting close as fuck. Look. They're so pretty. And they're looking at me. Oh my God, one's coming over. Hi. Oh my gosh. Hi, I don't want no problems. I'm just a cyber Disney princess. Yeah, so Bambi's still looking at me. So I'm going to take my black ass in the house. Are they waiting on me to go in the house? My friend is still there. None of them have antlers though, so I don't know if this is like the kids. Because there was a real big one, but he ain't had no antlers. Bye, y'all. They're all by my car. Please don't do anything weird to my car. Promise I'll come in peace. All right, I'm in my building, so you don't have to worry about me doing anything weird with wild animals. I'm not a weird with wild animals person, though I get the allure. It'll never be me petting wild animals. Maybe a cat, but like an actual cat, not a trash cat. Any version of a trash cat. Apprenticing today was cool. I drew my stuff and did my doodles, and I just wish I had more time, but I don't want to I need to be able to make money while I'm also doing this, and that's the thing.
Floor.
Oh, somebody is cooking. It smells good than a motherfucker. I love living on the floor with black people because it always smells like good food. All right, I'm in my place, and I didn't bring any wild animals in here with me. The only animals I have are these and my squishes. I'd show you my squish pit, but they're all beat down because I've been laying. One day I'll do the MTV cribs of my apartment. I feel like y'all have seen a lot of it though already. So there's that. I need to eat a food. Somebody made something. It smells like steak or something out there. I don't know what that. It smells so good. Maybe like some steak and some rice. I don't feel like cooking.
I am equally, if not more so, fascinated by Appalachian poverty than I am extreme wealth. And I am half Appalachian myself, and I've spent my entire adult life here, but it still never ceases to amaze me. It's my opinion that Appalachian culture is incredibly unique in some good ways, but also in some incredibly stifling ways. If you don't mind hills in every single direction, then the topography can be incredibly beautiful. It has been my experience that no one ever leaves the hills of Appalachia, and if they do, it's not for very long at all. If you're very fortunate, you might be able to go to Myrtle Beach or Gatlinburg once a year, and those seem to be the only vacation destinations for Appalachians. I asked my Appalachian husband why no one he knows has ever left here, and he says it's because they're happy here. It's the best place on earth.
I think we're gonna be fine. We're up on this little hill, and we're about 30 feet up from the river. And historically speaking, the most this river has ever flooded is 10 feet, which is probably close to what it's getting out to now, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll be okay.